I hate to say this. I heard a story about an uncle of yours, or maybe it was even grandpa, that had a fight and hurt somebody.
That was the Zeta.
The Zeta?
The Zeta back in Europe, in Russia.
That he had to leave the country because he killed somebody?
He used to
Three
say
people.
he was a shoemaker and he had a hammer and they were running after my grandmother. And he was tall. So, yeah, he was tall. Even when I was married, he was still tall.
But you were tall. Daddy was tall.
He was
Daddy was 6'4".
Yeah, but he was my grandpa.
All right, so he was tall. You're tall.
And, yeah, that's how he used to tell us all the time, and that's why he had to leave the country. That's why they all had to eventually leave.
Our whole family has been union people.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
Even Amy in California is.
yeah, it
she's
goes
a costume
union versus
designer.
labor. Union versus labor. Yeah, some things never change, and we were never religious Jewish people. Never
Not
observed the holidays. Well, observed them, but not religiously. Knew that they were there.
What
me,
about
it's-
previous generations?
No.
How do you know?
Well, tell them about the Bubba with the bacon.
Wait a second.
All right.
We used to have Seders in my mother's house. My grandfather would read quickly and mish over the pages. My Bubba read every single word. So there were uncles and aunts and cousins, and we really had a great time. My father, he put on a hat when they started, when they had to read. My sister, brother, and I slept over at my Bubba's because my parents worked, and my other cousins were so jealous that we could stay there. Yeah. And we went through the whole Seder.
We never went through the Seder.
Because you were not alive.
Oh. Okay.
But my grandmother died. She was 93. But my grandfather died first. He was she was 92. He was 83. When he died, the Bubba had to go into a home because my parents did not have a kosher home. My aunt was a fancy lady, and even though she had a kosher home, she didn't have room for my Bubba. Anyway, that was the end of the Seders. From then on, we had dinners, for all the holidays. My mother would make the dinner, and we all came there. But the cousins didn't come. It was just the immediate family, my sister, brother, and I, and whoever had, and the children eventually, and so on and so forth. But when my father's mother died, she used to be she was very religious. I remember once going to I can't even remember this.
Tell them about the bacon.
Wait a second. I remember going with her to the shul. But once she died, my mother put away the candles and the candlesticks, and she got rid of everything she said, enough! Enough!
She had it.
She had it.
So I'm kind of curious. So, in that generation, though, everyone was able to read the Haggadah?
I don't know. But you know what? They did. My uncles did.
Uh-huh.
My father, if he did, he must have, because he was bar mitzvah. See, he had to have known how, but he was probably too stubborn, to say it out loud because, he wasn't religious anymore.
Uh-huh.
But they all read. They all read.
So, can you take us through that a little bit? So, they grew up religious.
Yes.
They were bar mitzvah.
Yes.
What happened to religion? I mean, how did they move away from that? What was that about?
They were probably still religious. The only one that moved away was my father.
Uh-huh.
I remember my uncle had a fight with my father, and my uncle spat on the Freiheit, and they didn't talk for like 4 months. You know, one was the Forwards and one was the Freiheit. For God's sake, you know, Jews always fight Jews, right? But they just moved away from it. They were hard workers, and my uncle was a diamond setter, so he was a little bit more
Fancy.
elite, you know.
Fancy.
And when you did do the Seder, did you do the Fiat Kashes, or did you do them in Hebrew?
My cousin Sammy did it in Hebrew, Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu, that's
Yeah.
what I knew.
Okay,
So we did, you know, we had the matzah, we had the charosas, we had the wine, you know, excited to drink wine. I don't even know how they did, but maybe he was a little bit more modern. I don't know. He had to work, so he joined with the workers.
Okay.
And my mother also was the ILGWU. I remember one time I was sick, I was in bed, and my mother gave me bacon. I was skinny. All those days.
You're still thin.
So she gave me some bacon to eat because I couldn't eat everything. Yeah, I didn't like anything. You know. And then all of a sudden she's looking out the window and she says, "Oi, oi, the Bubba kommt." I think she said "kimt." So she runs into the kitchen, into the bedroom, and she takes my bacon away. And I remember looking at her like this, you know, like I didn't finish it.
Bedarf ist behalten.
The Bubba comes. So the Bubba comes in the house, and she comes over after to this kind, and she says, "Was machst du, my kind?" And I said, "I'm fine, Bubba." And she said, "Hast du gegessen?" Hab ich gesagt, "Yeah." And she said, "Was hast du gegessen?" And I said, "Bacon."
Your mother's crawling out the window at this point.
My
That's
Bubba
so
was smart.
sweet. Grandma gave you bacon.
My Bubba was so smart.